So we're here today in West Hampton Beach on the Village Green having a Marine Meadows program workshop. Now the Marine Meadows program is a project that's near and dear to me as I am one of the coordinators of the program, helping to organize these great workshops where we bring together land-based participants to weave together these eelgrass planting units that we then go plant in the bay. And Chris Pickerel will give you a little bit more information on that.
The system was developed about 2 years ago when we were looking for ways of getting the public involved. We had a system we called rock planting where we would take and incorporate shoots under existing rocks, and that worked very well in certain areas, but most areas of the bay don't have rocks. So we thought about what can we do to use a similar type technology but not bring rocks around. So initially we were using sandbags, and that evolved to this system where we just use the burlap and it holds the shoots and we plant it in the sediment directly without any kind of anchoring. What we do is we dig a small hole using a PVC ring, which creates kind of a cofferdam. We remove the sediment from that ring down to about 2 inches. We drop the tortilla with the plants into that hole, and then we backfill and remove the ring, so you have 10 shoots planted at the perfect depth, and they can't be pulled out by crabs or by currents or anything like that. So it works really well, and we're happy because we've been able to get literally hundreds of people involved with restoration efforts, whereas in the past we could only write about it or show pictures. Now they can actually get actively involved in what we're doing. Some people ask why we're working with eelgrass in the first place, and I like to say that a bay bottom without eelgrass is like a forest without trees. And it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but it really is true. If you spend any time in the water, especially diving or snorkeling, you know that there's really not much grass out there, and as a result there's not a lot of habitat value to the bottom. And we want to reverse that trend and bring that habitat back. Now, why is that habitat important? Well, if you like to eat clams, if you like to eat oysters, if you like to eat scallops, you should want to see more eelgrass in our local waters. The same thing with finfish, striped bass, snappers, killifish, seahorses, pipefish, all those things utilize eelgrass at some point in their life cycle. Without it, they're less productive, there are fewer of them. If you talk to the old-time baymen, they'll tell you there used to be grass all over the place, and there were more scallops and more clams and more everything. So it's a sign that we need to reverse this trend and bring it back. We've actually processed thousands of shoots. So each event we prepare between 3,000 and 5,000 shoots, and we've had up to 10 events over the last year and a half. So we have about 50,000 shoots that have been prepared, which is a huge effort. It really is. It's amazing what we've been able to achieve with volunteer labor.
Why are you doing this? Well, I'm doing this for community service for school, but we want to preserve the grasses and continue to keep them growing. We're out here for the weekend. We heard about the project and we wanted to take part. For the next 2 hours, this is what we're going to be doing.
And what is that?
Is to thread these eelgrasses through this burlap circle, and then we will put them back in water and they'll be planted where the eelgrass is, and hopefully start a whole new area.
My job here is to basically assist Chris and Kim Barber in facilitating the workshops, community outreach, educating the public about the importance of the marine environment, the importance of eelgrass, and how the Peconic region is really dependent upon this natural resource in a variety of ways. We do programs about once or twice a week, and then also once or twice per week we house volunteers. We'll either meet at a public place like a park and cut the burlap disc that we utilize, or we'll do the workshops here in like a public space like this. And last week, for example, we had one in New Suffolk, and the weekend before that we had one in Agawam Park. So we do them pretty frequently, mainly in the spring and in the fall season, because the summer becomes a little bit too hot for the plants to thrive.
I am Bill Pell, one of the Southampton Town trustees. My area is western Southampton Town. We're in West Hampton now, which the town trustees sponsored a marine workshop with the eelgrass, and Eric Schultz is another town trustee.
I'm the president of the town trustees. I'm helping out today, helping Bill's project here. This is an ongoing series of projects that we've been doing. How many have we done so far this year?
We did one last year, and we did one this spring in Southampton at Agawam Park about roughly 2 weeks ago. We did this one today, and we're gonna schedule them for the fall. They're hoping to do 2 more this fall in different areas of the town.
Yeah. All this work is based on site selection. Anybody can go out there and plant eelgrass in a water body and get it to survive for 2, 3, maybe 4 months, but it's all about getting the plants through that first summer to the July and August. That's the most stressful period for the plants, It's when the water's the warmest. It's when the crabs are most active. It's when the visibility in the water is the lowest. So eelgrass are plants, obviously, and they need to receive light in order to grow. And anything that shades the light passes the water or shades the bottom is going to prevent them from growing or actually kill them. So it's all about finding those sites where the light is sufficient, where the temperatures are cool enough, where there are fewer crabs, where the sediment texture is right. So there's a lot that goes into it. We actually have GIS-based computer models that help us decide on which sites to plant. We start by looking at aerial photographs, then we move on to field surveys, initial monitoring of sites to look for a species of macroalgae, look for crabs and snails, and then after that, if it gets through that screening process, we then move on to actually doing small-scale test plantings, and if they're successful, then we scale it up to large-scale plantings. And the plants that we're preparing today are for both test plantings and for large-scale plantings. We always like to piggyback these projects where we've always got projects where we know that the plants are going to survive and other ones where we're not quite sure. So we want to kind of piggyback one project on the other, and we're always looking for new sites to plant into. So we've discovered some in the Peconic Estuary this spring. We're going to pursue those and plant them out, and by September we'll know whether they're suitable for larger scale plantings. If they are, we'll organize an event and get a bunch of volunteers out here or at another site and prepare several thousand of these discs. This work is supported by a number of sources. Primarily for this effort today, it's through Suffolk County. We've got a 0.25% grant for eelgrass restoration throughout Suffolk County waters. This happens to be on the east end today, but that makes it possible for us to keep fuel in our boats, to keep our divers in the water, and just to get our day-to-day activities completed. Without that support, this wouldn't be possible. Hopefully through our efforts, we're going to be able to keep this species around for many generations. It's very important, and we're going to do everything in our power to make it possible for my children, my children's children, and their children to swim in, to be around, and to enjoy eelgrass.